In the shadows of Edo Castle, where power flowed like rivers beneath winter ice, I learned that blood could be thinner than rice paper, and trust more fragile than morning frost. My name is Takeshi Matsudaira, and this is the story of how my father's vast fortune became the weapon that nearly destroyed me. The year was 1703, deep in the Edo period, when the Tokugawa shogunate held Japan in an iron grip of order and tradition. Our family name carried weight that could crush mountains or elevate commoners to gods. But as I would discover, in the intricate dance of feudal politics, even the mightiest samurai house could crumble from within. Chapter 1. The Golden Prison of Privilege. Picture this: a compound stretching across acres of manicured gardens, where every stone was placed with purpose, every bridge designed to reflect the harmony of nature and human ambition. The Matsudaira estate wasn't just a home. It was a statement of power that echoed through the narrow streets of Edo like thunder before a storm. My father, Matsudaira Yoshinao, was what we called a Fudai daimyo, one of the trusted hereditary vassals who had served the Tokugawa since before their rise to absolute power. His domain generated over 150,000 koku of rice annually, making our family wealthy beyond the dreams of most samurai, let alone the merchant classes who scrambled for our approval like hungry sparrows. But wealth in Edo, Japan wasn't just about money. It was about obligation, duty, and the suffocating weight of ancestral expectations. Every morning, at precisely the hour of the dragon, I would wake to the sound of servants preparing for another day of maintaining our family's honor. The ritual was as precise as a tea ceremony: meditation in the family shrine, reviewing classical Chinese texts, practicing calligraphy until my fingers ached, and sword training that would make grown men weep.
My father believed that strength came from discipline, that honor was earned through sacrifice, and that our family's fortune was not a privilege but a responsibility to serve the shogun with unwavering loyalty. "Takeshi," he would say, his voice carrying the weight of generations, "our gold is not ours. It belongs to Japan, to the Tokugawa, to the future we must protect. A samurai who fights for money is no samurai at all." I believed him. Every word carved itself into my soul like inscriptions on a temple bell. Chapter 2. The Cracks in Paradise. But even in paradise, shadows grow long as the sun sets. The first sign of trouble came during the spring of 1702, when my father began meeting with visitors who arrived after dark and left before dawn. These weren't the usual retainers or fellow daimyo who frequented our estate for political discussions and poetry competitions. These men moved with the silence of ghosts and spoke in whispers that barely disturbed the air. My younger brother, Hideyoshi, noticed it too. Where I was the dutiful eldest son, groomed for leadership and weighted down by expectations, Hideyoshi possessed a sharp intelligence that cut through facades like a perfectly forged blade. He was 3 years younger, but infinitely more cunning. "Something is changing, brother," he told me one evening as we walked through our private garden, past the pond where koi fish swam in lazy circles, oblivious to the storms brewing in the human world above them. "Father speaks of loyalty, but his actions whisper of something else." I dismissed his concerns. Loyalty to family, loyalty to the shogun, loyalty to tradition. These were the pillars that supported our world. To question them was to question the very foundation of existence. How naive I was.
Chapter 3. The Web of Deception. The truth began to unravel during the Festival of the Dead in late summer. Our family, like all Cropper samurai houses, maintained elaborate ceremonies to honor our ancestors, rituals that connected us to the spiritual power that legitimized our earthly authority. But that year, Father seemed distracted during the most sacred moments. While we burned incense and offered prayers to the spirits of our forebears, his eyes darted constantly toward the gates, as if expecting either salvation or doom to arrive at any moment.
It was Hideyoshi who discovered the first piece of the puzzle. Late one night, while investigating unusual sounds from Father's private study, he witnessed a meeting that would shatter our understanding of everything we believed about our family's honor. Father was not just meeting with mysterious visitors, he was conspiring with them. And these weren't political allies or fellow loyalists planning to strengthen the shogun's rule. They were representatives of the imperial court in Kyoto, the ancient enemies of Tokugawa power, the very forces our family had spent generations suppressing. The revelation hit like lightning striking a mountaintop. Our father, the man who preached absolute loyalty to the shogun, the samurai who claimed our wealth served only the greater good of Japan, was secretly financing a plot to restore the emperor to direct political power, a move that would destroy the Tokugawa shogunate and everything our family had built. Chapter 4: The Price of Knowledge. When Hideyoshi shared this discovery, my first instinct was denial, then anger, then a cold fear that settled in my bones like winter fog. "We must confront him," I declared, my hand instinctively moving to the sword at my side. "This is treason of the highest order." But Hideyoshi's response revealed depths of calculation I had never suspected in my younger brother.
"No, Takashi. We must be smarter than that. If we simply accuse Father, he will destroy the evidence and possibly eliminate us to protect his secret. But if we gather proof, document his treachery, and present it to the shogun's agents at the right moment, we can save our family honor and secure our own position as the rightful heirs who exposed this betrayal." The plan was elegant in its ruthlessness. We would spy on our own father, collect evidence of his treasonous activities, and ultimately betray him to the authorities. Not out of malice, but to preserve the Matsudaira name and demonstrate our own unwavering loyalty to the Tokugawa. For weeks, we moved through our family compound like actors in a complex drama, maintaining the appearance of dutiful sons while secretly documenting every meeting, every exchange of gold, every treasonous word that fell from our father's lips. Chapter 5: The Moment of Truth. The evidence we gathered painted a picture of conspiracy that reached far beyond our family estate. Father wasn't just supporting imperial restoration. He was one of the primary financiers of a network that included dozens of high-ranking samurai, wealthy merchants, and even some Buddhist monks who viewed the Tokugawa as illegitimate usurpers of divine authority. The scale of the plot was breathtaking. Coordinated uprisings planned across multiple domains, secret communications with imperial loyalists in Kyoto, and enough gold changing hands to fund a small war. Our father's millions, the vast wealth we had always believed served the shogun's interests, were actually being used to undermine everything the Tokugawa represented.
On the night of the autumn full moon, Hideyoshi and I made our decision. We would present our evidence to the shogun's inspectors, exposing the conspiracy and positioning ourselves as loyal sons who chose duty to Japan over family loyalty. But as we prepared to seal our father's fate, something unexpected happened. Father summoned us to his private chambers for what he called a conversation that would determine the future of our bloodline. Chapter 6: The Revelation That Changed Everything. What happened in that room will haunt me until my ancestors call my spirit home. Father sat in formal Seiza position, his back straight as a temple pillar, wearing the ceremonial hakama that had belonged to our grandfather. Behind him hung a scroll depicting the mythical phoenix, a symbol of rebirth through destruction. "My sons," he began, his voice carrying a weight I had never heard before. You have been watching me, documenting my activities, preparing to expose what you believe is my betrayal. We had been discovered, but instead of anger, Father's expression held something far more unsettling: compassion mixed with profound sadness. You think I am a traitor to the Tokugawa. You believe I have dishonored our family name for personal ambition or misguided political ideology. But you understand nothing of the forces that truly shape Japan's destiny. He reached into his writing desk and withdrew a silk-wrapped bundle containing documents that would shatter my understanding of reality. The shogun himself ordered me to infiltrate the imperial conspiracy. For 3 years, I have been gathering intelligence on treasonous activities throughout Japan, identifying the leaders, mapping their networks, and preparing for the moment when we would crush this rebellion completely. The room spun around me like a child's spinning top.
Every meeting you witnessed, every exchange of gold you documented, every treasonous conversation you recorded, all of it was done with the full knowledge and approval of Tokugawa agents. I am not betraying the shogun, my sons. I am serving him in the most dangerous and essential way possible. But the revelation that truly broke me was yet to come. Chapter 7. The Ultimate Betrayal. Father continued, his words falling like stones into still water, each one creating ripples that would never end. The evidence you have so carefully gathered against me is perfect, too perfect to be accidental. Your surveillance was skilled, your documentation thorough, your conclusions logical based on what you were allowed to see. But there was one element of this operation that even I did not anticipate, one factor that has forced me to reconsider everything I believed about family, loyalty, and the price of serving Japan. He turned his gaze directly toward Hideyoshi, and in that moment I saw my younger brother's face transformed from surprise to something far more complex, a mixture of defiance, calculation, and what I could only describe as cold satisfaction. Your brother, Takashi, has been reporting your activities to me throughout this entire investigation. Every step you took, every piece of evidence you gathered, every moment you thought you were uncovering my treachery, all of it was being carefully orchestrated. The truth hit me like a physical blow.
Hideyoshi, my trusted brother, my co-conspirator, my partner in what I believed was preserving our family honor, had been manipulating me from the beginning. You see, Takeshi, Father continued, his voice now carrying the weight of centuries. This entire situation was designed to test something far more important than my loyalty to the shogun. It was designed to test which of my sons possessed the qualities necessary to lead our family in the dangerous decades ahead. Chapter 8. The Lesson of Shadows. In the world we inhabit, Father explained, survival requires more than martial skill or noble intentions. It requires the ability to navigate deception, to understand that loyalty itself can be a weapon, and to recognize that sometimes the greatest service to one's lord requires actions that appear treasonous to those who lack complete information. Hideyoshi finally spoke, his voice steady and devoid of the brotherly warmth I had known all my life. From the moment we began investigating Father's activities, I knew something was not as it appeared. A true conspiracy of this magnitude would have been more carefully hidden. The evidence was too accessible, the meetings too visible, the risks too obvious for a man of Father's intelligence and experience. So, I began investigating not just Father's actions, but the entire situation. Within days, I had identified the shogun's agents who were coordinating with him. Within weeks, I understood the true scope of the operation. And I realized that this was not just about exposing imperial conspirators. It was about determining which son had the intelligence and moral flexibility to eventually inherit leadership of our domain.
Father nodded approvingly. Hideyoshi demonstrated the qualities our family will need in the changing world ahead. He showed the ability to question appearances, to think several moves ahead, and, most importantly, to prioritize the family's long-term interests over immediate emotional impulses. The room fell silent, except for the distant sound of wind chimes singing in the evening breeze. "But what about me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What does this make me?" Chapter 9. The Choice That Defines a Soul. Father's answer would echo through my soul for the rest of my days. You, my eldest son, demonstrated something equally valuable but ultimately unsuitable for leadership in our current age. You showed unwavering moral conviction, absolute loyalty to principles, and the courage to sacrifice personal relationships for what you believed was right. These are the qualities of a true samurai from the age of legends, when honor was simple and enemies could be faced with swords. But we no longer live in that age. The battles of our time are fought with information, deception, and the ability to serve multiple masters while appearing to serve only one. The weight of his words settled over me like snow on a mountain peak. Beautiful, pure, and ultimately crushing. You were willing to betray your own father to serve what you believed was justice. That nobility of spirit honors our ancestors, but it also makes you unsuitable to navigate the complex political realities that our family must master to survive.
Father stood and moved to the window overlooking our garden, where the koi still swam in their eternal circles, unchanged by the human drama unfolding above them. Hideyoshi will inherit primary responsibility for our domain. He has proven that he can think like our enemies, anticipate their moves, and make the hard choices that leadership requires. You, Takeshi, will serve as his advisor and conscience, ensuring that our family never loses sight of the honor that legitimizes our power, even as we engage in the shadows necessary to preserve it. But the story was far from over. Chapter 10. The Price of Wisdom. As the weeks passed following that devastating revelation, I struggled to find my place in a world where everything I had believed about loyalty, honor, and family had been turned upside down. Hideyoshi, now confirmed as father's heir, began taking on increased responsibilities with a competence that was both impressive and deeply unsettling. He moved through the complex world of Edo politics like a master calligrapher, each stroke precise and purposeful, creating beauty through carefully controlled deception. But I noticed something that perhaps only a brother could see: the cost of such a calculated existence. In quiet moments when he thought no one was watching, I saw shadows pass across Hideyoshi's face like clouds across the moon. The weight of constant manipulation, of treating every relationship as a potential strategic advantage, was eating away at something essential in his spirit. One evening, as we sat together in the garden where we had once shared innocent conversations about poetry and philosophy, I made a decision that would define the rest of our lives. "Brother," I said, "I understand why Father chose you. Your intelligence and strategic thinking will serve our family well in these complex times. But I want you to know something important.